Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clucker's got some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. If you would like to support my baby chick of a channel, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, although this is chapter 9 in the series, you don't have to have watched all of the previous videos for this one to make sense, but if you want to support, go check them out. Just a quick note, my nuggets, before we get into the video. I am currently caring quite critically for a very unwell chicken. This may not have a good ending, and I do have her next to me with a heater fan on, so I do apologize for any background noise, but this is my life right now, and I will do my best to try and mitigate any excessive background noise for you so that it's still nice to listen to. But if it bothers anybody too badly, I do apologize. If this doesn't have the ending that we're hoping for, I may put up a note in my community post tab just explaining that I might need some time, so keep an eye on that space if you notice I haven't posted in a bit. Thank you for taking a moment to listen. Chapter 9. Hollow victories, heavy burdens when success feels like failure. By the end of the year, our princess had danced until her feet were sore, performed until her voice grew hoarse, gave everything she had to give, all in pursuit of the golden milestone that sparkled just beyond her reach. 100,000 subjects to call her own. The court had whispered that this number would grant her true legitimacy, and so she weaved spells faster and faster, churning out performance after performance, until the very art of creation began to wither in her hands. What had once been elaborate productions filled with costumes and characters slowly gave way to redundant spells of her daily wanderings, each more listless than the last. The princess found herself speaking into the void about the most mundane happenings, her words growing longer and more meandering as her thoughts scattered like leaves in the cold autumn wind. The magic that had once sparked in her eyes when crafting her early enchantments now flickered weakly, replaced by the dull exhaustion of somebody going through familiar motions. When the harvest feast arrived, that dreaded celebration where families gathered around tables groaning with abundance, the princess felt the familiar claws of dread sinking deep into her chest. She spoke bitterly of this obligation of having to sit amongst her court, who would surely notice how little she partook, how often she excused herself, how she withdrew into herself as a shield against their worried glances. After, in the safety of her tower, she catalogued her desires for the winter solstice with the careless entitlement of somebody who had never known want, never learned that wishes could be too heavy for others to bear, and when the darkness crept in through anonymous voices and strangers' cruelty, instead of turning away, she fed them with her attention, giving them exactly the power they sought over her crumbling kingdom. Okay, so this is going to be the final chapter in 2014, and I think that's really exciting because I think getting into 2015, we actually start to see Eugenia being a little bit more Eugenia that we know today. To close this year that was completely industrialized, so many videos, managing live streaming, managing social media, and kind of really throwing her all into everything that she had for her YouTube channel. We really start to see at the end of the year that she starts getting sick more often. She is starting to recycle content, and that isn't recycled is really kind of a much lower energy than we're used to seeing from Eugenia, and little to no creativity in them at all. Where the beginning of 2014, really, we saw a lot of creative skits and fun things like that. At the end of 2014, it was mostly vlogs and not very interesting ones at that. So something that I really want you to pay attention to is how little she's bringing to the table compared to the other videos in my series. And we're actually going to be just moving through November and December of 2014. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. So I'm on a different location than where I usually film my videos right now because I'm actually away on vacation right now in Florida. Today it's also pretty cold out. It's like 68 or something, and I do so bad in cold weather, so I'm kind of just dying. I've just been carrying around my Jack Skellington blanket everywhere, attempting to be warm.
Okay, so we're actually at Disney again. I've lost count for how many times she went to Disney this year, but I think it may have been 3 times off the top of my head. I might be wrong, it might be 4. But just calling out, the chicken in the coop, the obvious thing that's going on here, of course, cold is going to be something that people without a large body mass is going to feel a lot more than everybody else. And something that I did find interesting in these series of videos, and probably my last video as well, chapter 8, which was the part 1 of these vlogs, she actually does allude to quite a few symptoms or complications that can happen because of her condition. And I think at this point, because she was still so new to the internet, she was bringing that kind of thing up without realizing that people would start to catch on to it and then start hassling her about it as they do today. So this is very, very interesting to me.
I was at this like Disney party thing. My brother like desperately wanted me to be Vanellope from Wreck-It Ralph, but I was kind of like, I don't know. So if you saw that picture of me on Instagram where I had like that blue hoodie thing, and you were like, what are you wearing? That's why I was wearing that.
So I did dig around through her Instagram all the way to the bottom to find this. I actually don't think I would have looked at this and thought anything of it, that it's out of the ordinary in any way, but she felt the need to bring attention to it. So there you go. You can see what she's talking about. And for this next bit, I really just want you to forget what you know about Eugenia, forget that you know her age or what she's going through in her life, and just listen to this next bit and let me know in the comments, my nuggets, how old do you think this sounds?
I got a new Jack Skellington phone case. So I was like, oh, I love this phone case so much. I had a Jack Skellington phone case like before I got this one, but I kind of like this one a lot more. So now I have this one. I was in Epcot the other day in like the Japan section, and I found this really cool store actually, but I couldn't go at the time because it was nighttime and it was closed. But they were selling all this like Hello Kitty stuff, and I think they were selling like Pokemon stuff, and I heard that they sell anime stuff, so I really want to go over there and buy stuff because it looks amazing. It's like,
So for me, this, anybody who's ever been an adult and still been surrounded by teenagers knows that this sounds exactly like a teenage girl. I could swap this exact series of sentences out for one of my teenage cousins at the time, who by the way also did the emo thing, and it sounds exactly like that, and we're talking 13 or 14. And I just wanted to highlight here, we are in 2014, so we are dealing with a 20-year-old woman here. I just wanted to highlight that because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I don't know exactly where the regression happens, but I think just peripherally, little bits and pieces that we see coming through where things haven't quite developed the way it might with other people who have a normal set of circumstances in their developmental years. And when there is a regression, speaking from personal experience, it doesn't all just happen at once necessarily. It can be kind of, there's still these little tendrils, little ties that are pulling you back towards your youth, or to be younger, or avoid the responsibility, to avoid the failure, to avoid whatever it is that is in the mind of that person experiencing the fear in order to regress. And I think that this particular clip, although it seems fairly benign, actually speaks volumes.
I've actually also screwed up so many times while I've been here, because there was one day I forgot my wristband one day, which I still got in because it was the party day, so I still could get in, but that was bad. And then the day after that, yesterday, I forgot to take the maid sign off of the door, so I had to go all the way back to the hotel from the park and take it off the door. And yeah, I've just been so forgetful. I have such a bad memory though. Like, I literally kind of forget everything, and it's kind of sad, honestly, how bad my memory is.
So she's been discussing this quite a bit towards the second half of this year. And if you go back and watch the 2014 chapter series, so chapter 5 to chapter 8 is covering the 2014. And increasingly so she's talking about her memory in different videos. And, we could, of course, be looking at something like ADHD or, some sort of cognitive functioning that's causing this. But, of course, on a deeper note, we could also be looking at, are we seeing brain fog? Are we seeing the little peripheral symptoms of dehydration? Are these things starting to impact her life in this way? And keeping in mind, this is over 10 years ago. So I think that deterioration that we are witnessing in real time at the moment, it doesn't all just crumble all at once. And are we seeing this in the early form right now? And I do think at some point she stops talking about this, because I have no doubt that people would latch onto it. But it's interesting to see in hindsight, knowing where things go, to see how it began, in essence. Although, having said that, I do not think that we are anywhere near the beginning of her condition here. I think we're well in the middle of it. But it's interesting nevertheless.
Hey guys, it's Eugenia. One of the first things that I was actually going to do when I got back from Disney was go see the movie Big Hero 6. So I ended up going today, and it was honestly so amazing. It was actually probably one of my favorite Disney movies, and probably one of my favorite movies ever, actually. I don't really see a lot of movies. Like, I'm not really one of those like huge movie people. I saw Frozen last year. I honestly hated it. This was such an improvement from Frozen for so many reasons.
She does. It is interesting because this was in my last vlog video as well, chapter 8. She brought up hating Frozen, and she seems to have this kind of hatred. I don't know why, but she does. I put some clips in the last one. She does, of course, actually seem to change her mind on this. I don't know. At some point, she stopped hating Disney and started being a Disney adult.
There's the part in the movie where Hero's body temperature gets really low, so then Baymax like warms him up and he turns kind of like reddish and he warms him. And I am cold literally all the time. I have my heat on like 76 right now, and I'm still kind of cold.
That is 24 degrees Celsius for my non-Fahrenheit nuggets.
I like really loved this movie, and I came home for it tonight, and ever since then I've had Immortal stuck in my head. You can't be upset about having a Fall Out Boy song stuck in your head. I actually love it.
And so this is the kind of content that I was talking about at the beginning. She actually managed to make a fairly decently long video on this exact topic, and I think that this video, out of all of the ones that I've watched, is the first one that got very cyclic in its nature. She repeated these things a few times each within this video, and I don't know if it was just trying to pack it out or if we're really seeing the exhaustion coming through and that brain fog, but this particular video was much more indicative of what I would expect to see current day Eugenia doing compared to what she was doing throughout 2014.
Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and let's see if we can get this video to 1,000 likes. If you have not yet, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I am actually trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of this year, and you guys could help me make that happen, maybe.
So this is the first time she mentions this goal, trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That's a really big deal, because by this point, Eugenia had only been doing YouTube for about a year and a half, or maybe a little over a year and a half. So it's not that long to be hitting 100,000 subscribers. It really shows how she's resonating with her demographic, which of course is younger than she is. But I will note, although she actually brings this up in quite a few of these vlogs, but I've trimmed it out in future videos, she doesn't actually tell us whether she hit it or didn't hit it. And I don't know if she managed to get there by the end of the year. And if she did, she certainly didn't celebrate it with those who helped get her there. Actually, let me just do a little bit of research real time. I'll just see if I can dig it up on the Wayback Machine. No, I can't seem to find any data on it. So it's possible that she didn't hit it. It seems like she got a huge amount of her success after the Shane Dawson video, but that was in 2019. So I'm not sure. Maybe she just dropped it because she didn't hit it, but never mind. Let's move on.
So I know my voice may sound a little bit different in this video than how it normally sounds. So I am sorry about that. The reason my voice may sound a little more raspy than usual is because I've actually been super sick for the last couple of days. Probably the most sick I feel like I've been in like 2 years or something. And I think I caught it up when I was in Disney World. I don't know what it is with me, but literally every single time I go to Disney World, I always get sick. It never fails.
I always think it's a little odd listening to stuff like this that's been recorded pre-2020, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so she's been to Disney, she's gotten sick, and it's understandable, right? Large crowds, lots of people, being gross.
I actually was so close to not even having a video ready to post for today, but I really didn't want to not post a video today, and I am feeling a bit better now. I'm still not at all like 100%, but I'm better than I was. So I was just like, I'm gonna force myself to post a video today. And
so if you listen to that wording, force myself to make a video today, she is completely aware of the YouTube algorithm and pushing it, and like I've said before, industrializing this whole experience to ensure her success. It seems like she's really treating this like a full-time job, which I don't have any criticism for at all. But I do think the structure that she had set up was potentially too much for her, especially when you take into account the fact that she hadn't reconciled how to deal with the hate that was coming up in her community increasingly. And I think she's probably pushed herself to a burnout level, which is really only in her first full year on YouTube, and that's not a great state to be in. So considering she continued doing YouTube until last year, she must have found a way to improve this, I am guessing. I think she's probably found herself cornered by the algorithm at this stage, and that is an easy trap to fall into with this, especially when, you start seeing the success that Eugenia is seeing, about to hit 100,000 subscribers is nothing to sneeze at.
you can't even completely blame it on the kids, because there are seriously so many crazy parents there that enjoy it more than the kids, that force their kids to go out all the time and spread all their germs everywhere, so now I need to be sick, yay!
I mean, she's not wrong. But what adults is she talking about here? Does this sound like anybody to you? Anybody that we all might know? Anybody at all?
And it makes my lips so dry. My lips will change how dry they are very quickly, so they're not that dry anymore. But yesterday they got so dry from doing that literally if I even moved my mouth just a little bit, then I would make my lips bleed. I could feel it beginning to crack and bleed.
So this again is one of those little peripheral symptoms that she probably is not thinking anything of, but she's actually telling us quite a lot. And yeah, it's easy to get dehydrated when you're unwell, and that's why fluids are so important when you're not well. But to be just at the point of talking and having your lips to split kind of indicates to me fairly significant dehydration. And if you've seen my video where I did a deep dive on the physiological symptoms that come along with this particular condition, dehydration is very, very high on the list, because when you consider that potentially there is avoidance for liquids anyway, but then we also get a great deal of our fluids from the food that we consume, it's kind of hitting it from two different sides to compound this dehydration factor. And I don't think she realized what she was saying in this particular moment.
Also, I've been having tremendous throat pains that have been awful. Been feeling like people are just getting in and going right down your throat. And don't get any dirty ideas with that. That was not my intentions. I mean, that was an imaginary knife, not an imaginary anything else.
Yeah, so she fully knows what she's doing. This is intentional stuff. Now, there has been, in 2014, a range of, shall we say, curious behaviors that have clearly been dedicated towards the eccentric interest crowd. But to do that motion, make that noise, and then have that statement follow it up, she knows full well what she's doing. I don't know if she's done it knowing where that path will go. I don't know if she's just done it because she's worked out that that's what feeds the algorithm, or if she's trying to do content that really shouldn't be on YouTube but should be on a different site entirely. I don't know. But yes, this is full acknowledgement that she knows exactly what she's doing.
Hey guys, I spend a lot of time on the internet, and there's plenty of great people on the internet, but of course, where there's so many people on the internet, there is also some really crazy people that I've encountered.
Okay, so this is another video that if you've watched my last few videos, I've mentioned how she's dealing with hate and how potentially acknowledging certain types of people or certain specific people is just going to be giving them the attention that they want and essentially encouraging it. It's almost giving them a permission to keep going. And this is going to be another one of those videos. So we really have had addressing quote unquote hate for quite a few vlogs in a row now.
I'll try to read like every single comment, and I spend a lot of time doing that, and sometimes I will read the most bizarre stuff.
And that's the trap, isn't it? It does need to be approached with the knowledge that there are going to be some people commenting things in a way that they find joyful, that may not resonate with you as the creator, and some people that are just deliberately trying to be controversial, whether they believe what they're writing or not. But that kind of thing is going to be in the mix of comments. And I think the risk being when you're in a vulnerable state and when you're seeking the validation from your comments section, the way that I believe Eugenia is in 2014 and probably 2025, it can be a really dangerous roller coaster to enter into, because you'll get the highs of the people who are gassing you up and saying how wonderful you are and really appreciating your comment, which is great. But then you also read all the bad things people have to say. And when you're in a place of seeking that validation, you're going to apply them to yourself. So this boils down to, again, she needed a mentor that wasn't there to be able to prepare her for how to manage that kind of thing, and whether or not reading all of her comments was a good idea for her to do, and was she prepared for things that she didn't want to see. And also it's gauging yourself in the moment too, isn't it? Because while I can say with myself, like a good 98% of my life, I am in a solid place to be able to just, laugh off or shrug off whatever things that don't resonate with me, and, really focus on my nuggets who leave the most amazing comments, not just in praise of my channel, but sharing their own life and things like that. But I can acknowledge that there are small moments in my life where I don't feel super great, or I don't feel as energized as normal. So I know not to go looking at comments in that particular mode. But does somebody like Eugenia have enough self-awareness to be able to do that with herself, or is she just glued to those comments, constantly looking at them and just riding that roller coaster of what it is to be a public figure, essentially?
For example, recently, well actually not really that recently, because this person has been doing this for like 3 months, but there's been a person who actually goes under multiple usernames, and they'll go every single day on every single video of mine, posting like 5 billion comments about how apparently I'm actually a man and I'm a tranny who wants to appear to look like a woman.
Okay, so that blanked out word was a slur that did not age well. This whole section, look, it really didn't age well. I will preface this with, I do not think Eugenia is phobic in any way towards the demographic that she is about to be talking about. However, it comes off very ignorant, and I don't think it comes from a place of malice, but just a lack of understanding. So I just want to preface so everybody is aware of what's coming.
But they'll just be like, oh my gosh, Eugenia is a man? And I'm not a man. I am 100% a girl. So it just kind of is like, what's wrong with you?
And see, this kind of thing, why would you draw attention to this unless there is a deliberate tactic on her behalf to say, I am going to try and inflate this kind of rhetoric so that, people come back and they comment and they keep speculating because it keeps me relevant. And look, if that's her own business tactic, fine. I don't know if I see that kind of savviness necessarily, because I think it's one thing to play up an adult entertainment angle, but it's another thing to manipulate this kind of thing, especially when we see things like Diapergate in the future really affecting her negatively. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Do you think that this is just addressing the hate in a way that she shouldn't, or do you think it's a tactic on her behalf? Basically, how savvy do you think Eugenia is at 20?
But the thing is, I'm not. I wouldn't want people thinking that I'm something I'm not when it isn't true. I'm sure just like anyone else, I want to be, identified as what I am.
I mean, I'm just going to say, Nuggets, you don't hear me coming on here addressing all those people that think I'm a chicken, do you? I'm totally not a chicken. I am a human. What are you saying? I almost feel like if you are at one with who you are, like really at one, I don't think you need to necessarily justify to the public of who you identify as. Because here's the thing, if a rumor was started like this about me, I am very centered in my identity and who I am, so it doesn't become an issue as to who or what gender people would want to assign because it's completely irrelevant in my life. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? It becomes an issue for people who are going through identifying themselves potentially alternately to how society or their parents had labeled them. And I think when there's that kind of up in the air, I'm working this out, I'm a little bit sensitive about this topic, that's when it becomes a thing that you feel like you need to defend, because ultimately you're defending it for yourself, right? It's a self-protection thing. So for Eugenia to come out and say this, if it's not a tactic, it's the wrong way to start dealing with your haters. If your aim is, of course, to shut them up.
I also apparently wear a wig. There's always so many people who legitimately do not believe my hair is real and are convinced that I wear a wig. And I definitely do not wear a wig.
I was interested to hear that this started so early, and all I could think of was this from Jeffrey.
And guys, Jeffrey, see, if you pull in my hair, it's real, isn't it?
Eugenia, we're not doing this.
Oh, actually, we don't need to prove that. You're right.
There's no tracks. There's literally nothing. Your hair is beautiful and long. It's not falling out. It's healthy. It's actually really healthy and not brittle like some of you. Okay. Some of you brittle bitches I've seen online.
And again, look, I mean, it could be a tactic that she's just trying to continue the conversation about it. It's like, well, you either know you have hair or you don't. And if you don't, does it matter if you're wearing a wig? I don't know. I don't. But Eugenia does have an unusual fixation on her hair, and you can actually see it in a lot of videos. She makes mention of getting stressed if her hair isn't working properly, or if she's having a bad hair day, she needs to mention it. Or, you know, she talks about it needing to be perfect and perfectly straight and sitting perfectly and things like that. So this is actually a very large part of her insecurity around her hair. I'm not sure why that is, but I don't know. We all have things, don't we?
I mean, sometimes I see these comments and they're like, well, obviously she wears a wig. That's why Eugenia never moves her head. Who just moves their head? Like, who just goes around like, oh, hey.
No, Eugenia doesn't move her head because she has a very precariously stacked emo glam style going on, and any movement will cause it to flop forward. But the thing is, when you make comments about, oh, I want my hair to be perfect, that's essentially just giving the trolls a focus. Right? They go, oh, she's sensitive about her hair, so I'm going to push that button. And some people are really skilled at being able to identify what it is on people that will be pressure points. And she makes it just so ridiculously obvious that, of course, these people are going to start honing in on that. And it's probably not even that they think she's wearing a wig. It's just they're trying to rev her up.
You have all those strange messages that you get when people are getting all sexual. Sometimes I get people who like go the extra step and they start messaging me all this crazy stuff. Like there was like this one dude on Facebook a while ago, and he started messaging me saying that when he saw me on camera, he just suddenly fell in love with me and started having this obsession with me.
Okay, so this is actually really dangerous, and she should not have done this, because anytime there is that kind of obsession or a hyperfixation on a person happening, this can get into a fanatical territory very easily for that person. And to have an entire segment of a video dedicated to this person saying, I see what you're doing, is just giving them this attention. And it's almost like this video is now made for them and geared towards them, and it elevates this person in the mind, knowing that the focus of the fixation acknowledges that they exist, and this is a really, really bad idea. And considering that she's already spoken earlier about some odd things that had been happening online, and that she had been swatted, and that, you know, technology was taken off her for whatever reason. A lot of you think it is to do with the swatting, by the way. But this is just a colossally horrible idea, and I think a very, very risky one that clearly didn't go anywhere too dangerous, because we know Eugenia is still with us. But it's this kind of thing. Anyone that watches true crime knows that this kind of thing can get very scary very quickly.
Usually they're like 40-year-old men, at least the guy I'm referring to here. So yeah, it's a little scary at times.
She did actually go on to say that the attention that she's getting from this individual is on a different level to the kinds of adult comments that she gets in her YouTube videos or on her social media. And she talks about being used to those. So the fact that this is being contrasted and compared and saying that she's used to the other things kind of implies that she wasn't at one point and now has found herself to be. Look, I hope this is fake. I hope this was made up, but I think that this was risky. And I think she got away lightly with this.
Hey guys! Oh my gosh, no, that didn't work. Hey guys! I was at Playlist Live all weekend, which was so much fun. But I can tell, like, as I'm talking, because I can tell that my voice sounds, like, so deep and weird. It's like, oh.
I don't know. She felt like she needed to bring attention to it. So there it is. I went to get it out, but I felt like it needed to stay in for the video to make sense. I don't know. There it is. Explained.
I am very strange and have very strange sleeping patterns. And sometimes I'll just stay up for, like, 48 hours and still not feel tired. And then I go through other periods where I'll sleep for very long periods, and I don't know, I have very screwed up sleeping patterns.
Yeah, and that is a really big problem. She's talked about this many a time. I've addressed it as well, but the importance of a reliable circadian rhythm is so critical to cognitive functioning. That doesn't matter if you're a morning person or you're a night person, you know, whatever it is, whether you're waking up at 12 p.m. every day or whether you're waking up at 4 a.m. every day, it's irrelevant so long as it fits with you and what you need, fits with your schedule, and is reliable. And this kind of up and down and all over the place you can get away with in your early 20s. That doesn't stay that way, but I think it's indicative of, as I went through my deep dive on the physiological aspects of this condition, a disrupted circadian rhythm is in fact part of it, and it's a really significant part, and it's a sign that things are not working in your body the way that they should be. And whether that's coming from a mental health cause or whether it's coming from a physiological condition cause, I don't know, but I think it's really, every time she talks about it, I always just think, oh, you know, every single woman that I cover has this issue. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that this is just something that sleep hygiene is a thing, exercise is a thing, good lifestyle and nutrition is a thing, and all of this needs to be working together with hydration to create that solid circadian rhythm, and it's so important.
It's so weird because when you stay up all night, you feel like the day before was a long time ago, so it does feel like a new day. But in a way, it also feels connected because you never slept through it. So it's a very strange experience.
I have to say, although I've always been a night owl, and if I leave my circadian rhythm alone, I will always gravitate towards staying up a bit later and getting up a bit later in the morning. Chickens completely ruin that for me. But, you know, when you've got all of these little faces that are waiting for you to get up and feed them in the morning, well, that gets you out of bed early. It just does. And plus, you know, I have 4 roosters, so there's an alarm clock. But I don't know about you, although I always gravitated towards nights, I've never been one for pulling all-nighters. I do not enjoy that. I didn't enjoy it in my 20s. I enjoy it much, much less these days.
Then I got in a car and I almost freaked out because I am someone who can absolutely not live without my headphones because I want to be listening to music all the time. It was like, this is going to be a very long car ride.
Yeah, so this video sounded like just your normal vlog, talking about something inane that she has been doing for all of these videos. You think about what we've covered so far. We've talked about being at Disney, we've talked about Big Hero 6, we've talked about literally being sick, we've talked about haters, and now we're talking about staying up all night. That's literally all we've covered in this entire video. This video was just setting up to be an ad. That's all the purpose of this video was. And she goes on to talk about these headphones that she's basically selling everybody. So you can really see the deterioration, particularly if you go watch chapter 5, which was all of her skits, and you can see that vibrance in her, and you can see the creativity, and you can see the fun that she's having with creating these skit ideas, and then watch this. The difference in energy and creativity is staggering. If it was current day, I would be saying this is a really big warning sign, and that she needs to be starting to do things to look after her own mental health and her own physical health. But we know, of course, she kept going, so I guess she found a way around it somehow.
So today, on the date that I'm filming this video, it's Thanksgiving. By the time I post this, it's probably not going to be Thanksgiving anymore, but for now it is, so go with it. I don't want to ruin your day with my negative attitude, but I actually hate Thanksgiving, and I think it's probably my least favorite holiday.
Okay, my nuggets. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is, of course, an Australian take on Thanksgiving. We do not celebrate Thanksgiving, nor do we really have anything similar to it. But when I think of Thanksgiving, the thing I think about is the food. Like the feasts. It's almost like Christmas early, essentially, in my mind, at least. But like I say, correct me if I'm wrong. So is it no wonder when there is literally no other focus to this holiday? So sorry if I sound ignorant at the moment, but if there's no other focus to this holiday, is there no wonder that she hates this? Because essentially we have loved ones coming together to all be thankful and to eat a cluck ton of food. Having this particular condition in this way has a tendency to make you very secretive about your habits, and makes you want to hide things because you don't want to be observed, you don't want to be criticized, you don't want people to focus on you and worry that might lead to change or to pull you out of your condition. All you want to do is be left alone with your condition to manage it the way you want to manage it. And it can be a really self-perpetuating cycle in that way. And when you've got a holiday like Thanksgiving, where you're probably sat around a big table, I'm guessing, of a lot of food with a lot of people, it starts to be very difficult to hide your habits. And I apologize for speaking around this, but we know YouTube does not appreciate certain words or certain topics. So if you understand what I'm saying, I can see why she would not enjoy this holiday. I think, again, she's telling us so much more than she intends to tell us. And this is a glimpse of a Eugenia who had not yet learned how to pull the feathers over her viewers' eyes, so to speak.
These kind of holidays, I'll just be super awkward and kind of just trying to avoid everyone and stare at my phone or my computer or have headphones on listening to music.
So literally sensory deprivation from this holiday. She wants to not hear people. She wants to not look at people. She wants people to not look at her. She wants to just completely dissolve into her technology and be with herself. This is not new. She is not at the beginning of her condition. I would probably put good money on the fact that we're a few years in at least. You know, these things do tend to start around certain changes in the body. And shame on her parents for not stepping in earlier and for letting her become an adult and continue on this path. Shame on them for not giving her the skills and confidence required to be able to navigate life in a way that, you know, like nobody, or at least very few people in this world are 100% happy with their physiological traits. Most people will have at least one thing on themselves that they really, really don't like and would probably change if they had the means or ability to be able to do so. But that doesn't mean that we give in to our own insecurities and put our lives on the line for them. My mother certainly didn't help. In fact, she was encouraging it, and so was the rest of her family. And I don't know if that's happening to Eugenia or happened to her, and I hope not. But I would say that it is the parent's responsibility to do what it takes early on, because it's going to be much, much easier to come down that hill when you're just, just started climbing it rather than, approaching the peak. And I do think, I don't think they are 100% of the issue, but they did have a part to play, and they didn't take action when they should have, when they needed to. And I think, as bleak as this sounds, when this is all said and done, I think they're going to have a lot to answer for. A lot. People are so invested in Eugenia, and people are mad. I'm hearing it in my comments. I can only imagine what Eugenia is getting in hers.
So this is how my Thanksgiving began. Began with my mom texting me a bunch of text messages about attitude and gratitude or something like that. I know that they were sent with good intentions, but yeah, let me read them to you. So I was kind of telling my mom, I was like, Mom, my hair is just not working at all. And so she knew I was complaining about that last night, and today she texted me this message. She's like, focus on what you do have. The glass is half full, not empty. Write down before you go to sleep what you are grateful for. Example, it's not my hair won't work. It's I have hair. An attitude of gratitude.
So tell me what you think about this. What I'm hearing is that Eugenia has a tendency to maybe hyperfixate or be hypercritical of her hair, and she's bringing a negativity to a day that everybody wants to enjoy in her family. And it kind of looks like the mother is trying to redirect her focus badly, but she is trying to do it. Now, I didn't include it in this video, but she also goes on to speak about a similar interaction with her father, who was kind of just a very practical take on hair, as you would expect from a father, and also her brother trying to sit her down and tell her that she needs to do different kinds of YouTube content. And I think this kind of family dynamic in this video is represented really strangely, because we almost have a dismissal situation going on with the mother saying, no, you're focusing on the negative. You have hair. What's the problem? You've got the father saying, well, just fix it. And you've got the brother saying, change your YouTube. It's odd. It's very odd. And again, with Eugenia, I will say it's hard to tell, because all of this could be fictionalized just for the video. This could be an element of a skit, but I don't know, the recurring themes that come up, it is a bit odd.
But sometimes when you're just in a really bad situation, or it seems like it's a bad situation to you, you don't focus on the positive, and you don't even want to hear that. You just want to complain because you're just in that state of mind. It's like when someone's going through a hard time and a lot is going wrong in their life or whatever, and then people will tell them things like, oh, well, homeless people have it worse than you. And it's like, that's not going to make that person feel any better at all.
No, and so here's the thing, like, that is very dismissive of somebody's feelings to say, oh, well, it could be much worse. You could be starving in Africa and all that stuff. I used to get that as a kid all the time. It is essentially saying to the person, what you're experiencing doesn't matter. So because it could be worse, I'm not at all going to factor that this is bothering you. But here's the thing, and what this is saying about Eugenia is how sheltered she has been and how restricted she's been in her life, whether that was her parents' doing or her own doing, or a combination of. There is restriction. And what I like to think about it is, if you remember back to maybe your earliest memory, maybe you were 3 or 4, maybe you had an ice cream and you dropped it on the floor, or my memory when I was really little is I remember running out of a newsagent's and tripping on some uneven pavement and skinning my knee. Worst clucking thing in the entire world, because when you're that age, these events rank as the topmost tier of devastating or traumatic things that have happened to you. And I kind of like to think of it on a scale of 100. So if you think of yourself at that age, the most traumatic thing is your 100. And so that's your dropped ice cream. Then maybe you go to school and maybe you get bullied a little bit. And now that's your new 100. And maybe dropping an ice cream is now a 75. because it has a reference point that's now greater than it. And then maybe you get into high school and you get dumped by your first boyfriend. Well, now that's the 100, and now dropping an ice cream is maybe a 25. And you see how it goes. And the older you get, the more life experience you gain, the more things that happen to you, the greater your 100 gets to, which means it diminishes those smaller things down. And that's why sometimes for people who have gone through a lot in life and have a fair whack of trauma, they sometimes look at, let's say, people who have had relatively straightforward lives, and there's a disconnect between how life is seen or reacted to. And it can be difficult when you are the one that has experienced more trauma to look at these people, you know, crying over something that you're like, yeah, that's a Tuesday for me. But we shouldn't diminish their experience, because if that's ranking high on their threshold, well, they're still experiencing it the way that you would experience that number on your threshold, even though that activity would be far worse for you to experience that. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. Now, my point being, for Eugenia, if her hair isn't working, where is that on her scale? I'm not saying it's a 100 for her. I'm not. But I am saying that for her, that particular issue is high. And with her condition and with her set of mental health situations that are going on, appearance things are naturally going to be raised higher than other things that she may not care about. Now, for me, look, bad hair, I don't know, probably right now as we speak, yes, it is. It's a non-issue. It's in a bun. It's fine. It's functional. It's what I need right now. But for Eugenia, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And it really speaks to how little she's experienced in her life at this point for this to be such a big deal for her and to constantly bring it up the way she does.
Then to make things in this situation even more annoying for me, I woke up today and once again I tried to do my hair and it would not work for the life of itself again. Also, my dad was downstairs and then he just started telling me, like, he's like, Eugenia, if your hair doesn't work right, then stop complaining and make it easier for yourself. Just go cut it all off. Go get yourself a bob. Go put your hair in a French braid. Go put your hair in a bun.
I apologize. I forgot I left this in. So there you go. Yeah, so very practical take from Dad. Basically, cut it off. If it's such an issue, get rid of it. It's a practical fix for an emotional issue, if that makes sense. He's not helping, not at all. And I tend to think that there's probably not a lot of thought that's gone into this reaction, but we've probably got somebody who's sick about hearing about her hair as an issue, or her appearance generally speaking, because of course she's also talking about how, you know, she needs her eyeliner to feel right and she needs her foundation and things like that. So yes, thanks, Dad. Okay, so this is the final vlog for 2014 and the final video that we will cover for 2014. Congratulations, we have watched all of them. Now, this video was received really, really poorly because people thought that she was coming off very entitled and not at all understanding the value of money. I do think, in Eugenia's defense, that a lot of this video was satirical, but there was some kind of very sheltered, very privilegedness going on. That's totally word nuggets. Just let me do my thing.
Hey you guys, it's Eugenia. So today I just got back from Disney World after being there for about like 6 days. I'm seriously so sorry that I haven't posted any videos in like over a week, which is crazy. I totally went to Disney with the intention of still posting videos and I brought my camera and everything, but unfortunately, I ended up not bringing my foundation because it was packed, but then my mom somehow unpacked it and unpacked hers and I didn't have it. And I'm really sorry because like I really don't like filming videos without my foundation on.
Okay, so a couple of things here. One, I find it curious that Eugenia's mother would have gone through her bags in order to be able to unpack the foundation, and I wonder if it might have been intentional, perhaps. I don't know. But the other thing is we're seeing again here something appearance driven that is really ranking very, very high on her 100 scale. I do believe I was actually having this conversation with a friend of mine who has teenage daughters at the moment, and he was saying that he does not like his daughters to wear makeup. He makes them wipe it off and things like that. And he feels quite strongly about that, and that's his prerogative as a father. I'm not a parent, at least to human babies, so I'm not going to put my oar in on his situation. I do think, having been a teenage girl, that it is a little bit of a rite of passage. I don't think it is a bad thing. I think it's a part of wanting to experiment with adulthood and grow up a little bit and you know, wear the stuff that mum's wearing and things like that. I do think it becomes a problem when at 20 you're saying that you can't put yourself on camera without having foundation on. I mean, at 20, your skin is never going to be better unless you have a skin issue, but Eugenia doesn't. So it is something that potentially got out of control and should have been reined in on a reality level by this point, because this is her job and she clearly cares about it, but not more than she cares about the way she looks. That is always going to be the most important thing. And I think it's those conversations that parents need to have with their teenage daughters of, you know, why do you want to wear the makeup? What are you using it for? Is it just a little bit of fun? Is it just like a way to express yourself? Or are you depending on it to do something for you that you feel like you don't have? And I think it's critical to be building that confidence early, especially making sure that they don't hear it from a boy first. That's not good. And to be able to build this self-esteem of, well, I'm pretty the way I am, not to be compared with others, not to be enhanced artificially and things like that. But it's a deep topic. I could probably do an entire video on that. But tell me what you think about this comment. Can't do videos because I didn't have foundation.
I thought that I would tell you guys a couple of the things that I want for Christmas. I'm not really someone who asks for a lot of things for Christmas, so there isn't really too much that I want, but these are a couple of things that I wouldn't have a problem with getting.
So if you watched my previous video, I went through this a lot because there was a lot of shopping hauls in that one, and including all of the things that she did actually get for Christmas. Just because she doesn't ask for things doesn't necessarily mean that she's not entitled or expecting things. This can be a response to always having been inundated with gifts all through life. So she knows potentially that her mother knows what she wants and that she'll get things anyway. And she did get a lot for Christmas. And we're seeing a very fortunate economic situation for this family, basically. But I just took clips of everything that she said and I've put them all together, and you can tell me what you think.
This awesome like dragon hoodie thing. I would also like some cat hoodies. I would really like an iPad. I obviously want to do something that I think everyone wants to do, which is meet Santa Claus. For real though, I probably don't really care too much about meeting Santa, but I would like to meet Jack Skellington or Sandy Claus or whatever. He's way cooler than Santa. I would also like Christmas lights to just stay up all year. And then the final thing that I want, which is what I want the most, is for just world peace, because the world can be a really scary and depressing place. So if you guys could just all be happy and everyone just be happy and everyone just be nice to each other and get along, I think that would be a great thing.
You know, the older I get, the less I think that world peace can be a thing. I think it might be in our neurological and genetic makeup to just be a warlike society. I don't know. We've never really gotten it together. I don't know if this is a thing we can do as humans. But anyway, what do you think? I mean, some of this was materialistic, some of it was clearly satirical. So I think people did come down a little bit hard on her for this one, because she did mention it in her follow-up haul video that she did, but I mean, it is a little bit. Clearly she's fortunate, clearly she's privileged in a way that not all of us experience.
I don't really do that much for Christmas, to be honest, except I do get this really cool black Jack Skellington Christmas tree up, and I kind of just want to keep it up all year because it's that cool, but I don't know.
I would have been exactly the same. Actually, if I still did Christmas, I probably would still be the same. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so that completely sums up all of 2014 and what a wild ride it's been. And as I've mentioned, there's just been a massive deterioration of energy levels and effort on Eugenia's behalf from the beginning of 2014 to the end of 2014. So I am very, very excited to get into 2015 because I also believe that the mother starts to make more of an appearance, I think, unless it's 2016. And oh my goodness, I have thoughts about her. Something that I actually learned about myself that was highlighted in the comments section that I thought was quite interesting is whenever I know that I have a natural bias towards somebody, which is human. That's something that our brains do. We are little bias engines. But if I know that I have a negative bias about somebody in my head, I tend to speak about them more lightly than I normally would. And I think I'm just trying to balance out what's going on in my head versus what you guys are hearing. But then the problem is what you hear is me saying these nice things about these people and you're not hearing what's going on in my head. And so it comes off that I'm on these people's side. I'm going to try and be a little bit more mindful of it and try not to do it because I think there are a lot of villains in this story, and Eugenia herself is absolutely not just a victim. Of course, none of us are just victims or just villains in our lives. That's the reality. We all play multiple parts within our life. But yes, just keep that in mind. You know, Eugenia's mother, I think, has a great deal to answer for. And I hear a lot of you in the comments saying that you hope that she's held legally responsible in some way, but unfortunately the reality of that is I think that ship has sailed. I think if it was ever going to happen, it would have been based on neglect of a child when Eugenia was still a minor, but she was not online when she was a minor, really, not for long, not long enough for people to see what's going on. And now that she's an adult, it's going to be incredibly difficult to prove that Deb has done anything wrong at all. You know, short of confinement or active restriction in some way, it's an incredibly difficult thing to prove. And so the likelihood is that there will be nothing at all, like nothing, other than the loss of her daughter, which is incredibly sad to think about, isn't it? But if you're still here listening, thank you so much. I appreciate you all so much, each and every one of you. And I'm very grateful for you watching my video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. But that is all the clucks I have left to give. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey, 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 hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!